wondering how I got into this mix.
All right, here we are at the Envision Festival, actually in the Children's Village, which is spectacular. I'm here with my dear brother, Derrick Broze. It's an honor.
How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing really good, bro. Yes. We just actually finished a fruit ceremony. We probably had 100 people eating exotic fruits. My hands are still sticky from it.
Yeah, you introduced me to so many of those fruits the first time I went to Punta Mona. So today, I mean, I guess we wanted to sit down and talk about what our latest projects are, right?
Totally.
Like the things that we're working on. For those who are watching this on my channel, I've introduced you to them a couple times over the years, of course, about Envision. We've done the fruit walk through Punta Mona, showing everybody all your knowledge there. And you've always got so many different projects going on, as do I. So we figure like, let's catch up and see what we can share. Let's
publicly catch up. So yeah, no, things are exciting. You know, this is our 10th anniversary here at Envision, and yeah, it's this year is the first year we did what's called the 7-day experience. Normally Envision was from Thursday to Sunday, and then we added an early entrance Wednesday, and now this year it started on Monday, so it's like Monday to Monday, basically a full week. And it just felt like, you know, we basically create a community here of 8,000 people, and it takes a few days to not only like just get comfortable, but even just to acclimatize. A lot of people are coming from other countries. There's probably 60, 70 countries represented here.
Wow.
And, you know, coming to this, you know, tropical, hot, beachfront environment takes a few days, but also just the emotional kind of just like letting go of people's, you know, city lives and, you know, attachments to, you know, to coming here and being so surrounded by like-minded people. People are just totally blown away.
It's a big shift to come fly in and deal with all that and then arrive here and then just get used to on the first day. I love that you guys expanded to 7 days.
Good.
We've been here for the whole week, and it's definitely been nice to have the smaller, more intimate setting and more the workshops and everything else and the music. So I'm excited for that. Now I want to talk to you about, you know, so you're here, of course, performing music. We just did the fruit ceremony. You've got other talks coming up, but you've also got a couple of big projects coming up that you're already working on. Like, I want to hear more about that. So there was one that I already know about, the Ecoversity.
Right. So yeah, Ecoversity. So Punta Mona is my farm on the Caribbean side. It's 90 acres on the beach, and we've been there for 25 years. We have one of the largest collections of useful plants on earth, and we've been teaching. We taught the first permaculture courses ever in Costa Rica. We teach herbalism, and we teach mushroom classes, and we teach, you know, just regenerative living, lifestyle workshops, and we do yoga teacher trainings, and it's kind of like an all immersive, you know, classroom, you know, jungle classroom. And last week we hosted this incredible visionary artist named Amanda Sage doing a painting artist, and we had like a painting workshop. We had like 3 different workshops going on at once, and what it's really kind of organically evolving into is what we're calling the Ecoversity. And then we're doing our first kind of titled Ecoversity program this summer in July, which you're going to be at, which I'm excited. And Ecoversity, it's basically a 3-week intensive permaculture course with myself, my teaching partner Itai Halbin, and also Penny Livingston. I don't know.
Penny's awesome.
Penny's incredible, elder, permaculture, herbalist, priestess, amazing. So that'll be the first 3 weeks, an intensive permaculture course. And then the second 3 weeks, you break off into intensives. You can either choose green building, regenerative agriculture, or herbal medicine and community health. And then you have 3 weeks like hands-on intensive, actually in the field, doing those works. You know, it feels so important in these times, where these very interesting times where we really need to expedite the change. I agree. If we're going to expedite that, we really need to figure out the tools. So the idea with Ecoversity is to really train people with the tools to help to get, so together we can redesign the world.
So let's take a quick step back. For somebody who's never heard of permaculture, what's your quickest, simplest way that you would define that?
So the way I define it is, how can we meet our goals and use less energy? You know, like bang. A lot of people think permaculture is a form of agriculture. It's not. It's about energy. I mean, a lot of the energy, a lot of the land in the world, a lot of our energy daily is going into feeding ourselves. You know, so obviously we're thinking about the energy that it's taking to feed ourselves. And so permaculture is, you know, how can we wear the lens so that no matter what we're doing to meet our goals, we're being conscious of the long-term health of the planet's resources.
Yeah, it's like also, it's another way I think about, and you've helped me see this, the way that not only we're designing our food systems, our energy systems, but the way we design our life in general, right? And the people that we interact with, and the communities that we're building, and the relationships. I think that, for me, it permeates every aspect of our life, or it can if you choose to adapt that way.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like such common sense, but guess what?
That's not
common
right.
sense isn't so common anymore. You know, often when I'm teaching permaculture, like one of the words I'll bring up early on is the word, my favorite 3-letter word. It starts with a D, ends with an H.
Dope.
Duh. It's such duh. Like all these things we're teaching in permaculture, like let's not drink water with fluoride and chlorine in it that's toxic. Do not eat food that's with neurotoxic chemicals in it. Let's not destroy forests that are like the lungs of the earth. Let's not poison our rivers and our oceans. It's like, come on, duh. It's like the most obvious thing.
And what I love about, you know, since we've got to know each other over the last 4 years, what I've always appreciated about, you know, your work or your life and what you bring to the table is action, right? Because there is a lot of people who I think in the world generally who see these same things, but they're also waiting for somebody to do something about it. They're waiting for that leader or the government or this corporation or whatever it may be. They're kind of waiting. And
they're blaming.
And they're pointing the finger like these people are doing this, but there's not so much, well, what can I do, right? And I think we are definitely at an urgent point of action is needed.
Solution-based action.
Exactly.
Like, you know, all the tools, we know what to do. Physically, we know what to do. I mean, the question is, can we get along?
We know what's wrong and we know what could change things.
Exactly.
But it's about, like you said, can we get along? Can we get past little maybe minor differences or divisions and focus on the bigger picture?
Well, I find a lot of times in activist communities, we're so problem-focused.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, where we need to shift. Yeah, the problems are messed up. And like, what's going to solve the problems is the solutions. So if we start really putting all of that like energy against the bad things and put all the energy towards the positive good things, I think we'll do really well. So kind of like in the bigger kind of like hitting the negative sign on the Google map of my life a little bit, the Ecoversity is one piece of a bigger whole. So Envision is one thing I do, which is a festival here in Costa Rica that's now grown to around 8,000 people. It's incredible. The Ecoversity is kind of the educational piece of it. And then I live in a community like, you know, Ecovia, which is 45 families from 22 countries. And we have 55 children in the school that the parents co-created.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And it's incredible. And now we just bought 70 hectares next door, which is 170 acres. And we're expanding. We're creating an elder village, 100 more homes. It's like, how can we radically redesign the world? And how can we merge all of these things? So now the vision that I'm really focused on right now, it's called 1001. Redesigning the world 1,001 hectares at a time. That's 2,400 acres. Imagine if on 30% or 25%, we just protected natural forests. And then on another 25, 30%, we did reforestation. 25, 30% is 250 to 300 hectares. That's like 1,000 acres, you know, 800 acres. It's like, who's doing that kind of reforestation? And then on another 30, 40%, we do food forest, massive food forest, and then state-of-the-art food processing facilities, and then merge right in there is the eco-villages and the festival site. The ongoing, imagine we had a festival like this 5 days a month, every month.
I think that's important to sort of recreate and again, redesign the spaces we're living in because we've gotten so separate from the food, right? We're living away from our food. We're living away from, we have to escape to go to nature, right? And all these kinds of things. And the ideas of food forests are coming into some city areas in the US and elsewhere. But I think that's an important point to make, that if we can create space to protect the environment as well as remediate it and live amongst it and have everything that we need, I mean, why not focus on that?
Yeah, I mean, and look what we're capable of here. It's like, so with Envision, like with my Envision partners, the conversations is going like, this is so amazing. Look how people feel when they're here. Why can't we create this and do this all the time?
Absolutely.
You know, like what would it take? Like what energy is it taking to do this? Sure, in this way, when you do it for a week, we're like charging for tickets and we're paying people to do that. You know, it's like there could be a way where we could do this in a bigger, greater Envision community.
Sure,
you know, where it's all permanent and we live there and there's homes and there's possibilities for more agriculture and it's
there's a lot of possibilities.
It's happening.
I want to get you, Stephen, if you can, offer, you know, 1 or 2 simple points to somebody, because there's obviously people who hear these things and they're like, well, I'm working a 50-hour-a-week job, or I got 3 kids, or like, but this is where I want to be, this is the dream I have, but I'm never going to get there. Like, what's something to you, a simple step that could, because it's also about the steps that get you there, right? We don't go from living in Babylon, the Matrix, whatever, to the next. You have to take small steps to get there, and sometimes those steps can be bigger, but just any general tips that you could offer to somebody who's hearing this and they vibe with it, but it feels so far away from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, baby steps. It's like, sometimes you think, oh, if I bring my cloth bags to the grocery store, am I really going to help the polar bears? You know, it's like, yes, you are. Every little thing helps, you know, and just really starting to tune in with what you're buying. Like, what are you purchasing? What company are you voting for when you make a purchase? Like, I think now more than ever, we all need to step it up. We all need to raise the bar. We need to stop buying bottles. We need to stop buying cans. We need to stop buying disposable anything. Like, and if we can't start doing that, who will? You know,
Exactly.
we got to stop buying new clothes. We got to stop buying things from people we don't know. We need to have dinners and meals where we know the first and last name of most of the people that grew the food on our table.
Yeah.
You know, like with what Rob Greenfield just did. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we need to connect with where our things are coming from, and we need to support people we know.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's on the simplest way, and it doesn't mean like, you know, 100% of the food I eat is going to come from somebody I know, but maybe we start working towards upping that
Sure.
percentage.
Somebody might be at the point where they're completely dependent on that grocery store at the moment, have no connection to the food, but then they start visiting a farmer's market a couple times a week.
Helicopter!
That's right.
I was invited to go.
Yeah?
I was invited to go on that helicopter and I declined. A friend of mine is riding around. He's like, "You want to come?" Part of me wanted to a little bit. But I felt like, oh my God, how can I be like saying these things to you and talking about eco anything and then cruise around on a helicopter to see the festival below?
While you eat your filet mignon.
Yeah, well, I could watch it from a drone. You know, so I think when we talk about transition and we talk about like stepping from like game A to game B, from leaving the way things were to the way
Coming back.
you know, transitioning to this new way of doing things. Tell me about your book. It sounds like, you know, it's like interesting.
So
we're writing books that are very similar. It's about this transition.
In this mindset. I mean, for me, so I'm a journalist, right? And so I produce documentaries, I write articles, but I also see the solutions as necessary. You know, to me, it's always been a strategy of like, put out information to educate people about the problems and then guide them, here's the solution, right? Because a lot of people, yeah, we know Monsanto's doing this or this chemical company's doing this. What do we do? Things are screwed, right? And so I've always felt like if I'm going to talk about a problem, I want to be able to say, here's a solution, even if the solution is just tell more people. Because sometimes that's all you can do. There's no like, this is the easy step. You just got to tell more people so more people realize there's a problem.
Totally.
So I've tried to balance that with my journalism and activism with, you know, learning from people like yourself and understanding the solutions and bringing them to a wider audience. So my book is that I just released, and which is available to download for free for anybody who wants to check it out.
Of course it is.
It's the 5th book I've written. I'm on a roll of 1 book per year for the last 5 years, and I'm trying to continue that.
Should I text him and be like, bro, you're ruining my interviews?
So the book is called How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. Without spending an hour trying to explain what that means, essentially it's what people know as the smart grid, which is becoming more and more part of, especially in the United States and Western countries, and I would say even in some ways in Costa Rica. We're dealing with a world where we have smart devices and a more digitally interconnected world, but in some ways less connected to each other, more disconnected. So I started to wonder, how does somebody, you know, opt out of these systems? Because like you're saying, well, let's opt out of the mass food production, the food distribution system that sends food thousands of miles across the country and all the different costs that are incurred. That's always been my goal. How can I pull myself out of the systems that don't align with my values? And that's the message I like to share here at Envision. And I still believe that's the answer, and I think that's always going to be the answer. Opt out of the systems that do not align with you and build better systems, right? That's what permaculture is to me. And unfortunately, I think we're dealing with a world that's becoming increasingly smart, you know, with many people are kind of becoming aware of concerns around 5G, whether it's health concerns of exposure to those things or privacy concerns as well. And so we're kind of dealing with a world that is becoming, I'd say, less open to these ideas. And just as an example, so people understand this is a real world example, in China, as of last year, 1 million residents of China were denied the right to fly out of their own country because their social credit score, which is coming into vogue. A lot of people heard that through that show, Black Mirror, which I've never seen, but people always bring it up. And it's this idea that the actions you take will determine your social credit, not just your credit card, but your social credit. So say you're posting something online that somebody doesn't like, government or whatever, your score goes down. If you jaywalk, your score goes down. And this is a system that's already in place.
My score would be pretty bad.
And well, think about the way that we live our lives, right? Like, which is sort of out of the mainstream, right? People who are trying to live that way in a place like China that's already highly controlled, and India, Singapore, these things are starting to happen. They're being penalized. Well, you can't get that loan. You can't get a new house. And not only you, but the people who hang out with you, their score goes down for associating with the antisocial person, as they deem it. I don't think these systems are too far off from the United States, unfortunately, in other places. So I started to imagine, if that does continue with this trend, how do we still build, you know, if we're being literally penalized for our lifestyles? And so the book is as practical as possible of, here's ideas on building community, and I think that is the answer. Whether you stay in the cities or you move to the countryside, community is the answer. That is, and because if we start getting locked out of society for the way we want to live, well, you're either going to be isolated as one person, or you're going to band together with other people and build the communities. And there's,
we're stronger together.
Exactly.
Sure.
So the book, that's the long and short of it. The book is focused on a little bit of philosophy, but more practical. Like, hey, if you're concerned about certain direction, you're concerned about this, find other people of like mind and build. And here's some ideas and strategies I put on, largely from learning from people like yourself and from Rob as well. So
awesome.
Again, the book's called How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. It can be found for free on my website, which is just theconsciousresistance.com. And I also just released a documentary that kind of is the other side of it. It's called The 5G Trojan Horse, and it looks at the corruption behind this rollout of this new technology, which a lot of people think is just the next evolution. We're going to get to download movies faster and all these sort of things. But as a journalist, when I was in Houston, which is where I'm from, and they announced that Houston was going to be the first 5G city in the world, I decided, like, well, what is this? Let me learn more about it. And it sent me down this whole year rabbit hole of interviewing health experts, privacy experts, and trying to confront the politicians and having them run away from my questions, very basic questions. Have you looked at this study? Have you heard this thing? I ran for mayor of Houston last summer. I don't even know if I told you that.
I didn't know that.
I ran for mayor starting from May. Obviously, I didn't win, but it wasn't really aiming to win the position, but more to bring ideas.
The platform.
I was the only candidate talking about permaculture, talking about building food forests in Houston, talking about turning vacant lots into community gardens, and bringing all those ideas to the table. And so it gave me an opportunity to speak to people who, let's be honest, most of them aren't going to find me on YouTube. They're not going to be at Envision. These are just more of a mainstream audience who are in, the city, but to talk about important ideas. So,
because it's easy to find, sit there and preach to the choir.
Exactly.
Here,
and I love being at Envision. I love getting invited to speak.
Totally.
I'm going to Spain in a couple months and speaking people, but the people who go to those events kind of already get it, right?
Yeah.
And I've tried to bring that message here to encourage, like, for example, I'll say that this Friday when I talk, has anything changed for you since the last Envision you came here? Because if we just keep meeting in the jungle, but we haven't done the things we're talking about, then there's not going to be any action, right? So to me, it's so important to emphasize that action. So the documentary is a little bit more like, hey, if you've never heard of this, here's the educational side. Again, available for free. Check it out. And in the book is, here's some steps to do, right? So that's kind of what I've been working on.
Amazing, Derrick. So yeah, what an honor. I mean, I guess what's coming up for me right now is, like, in permaculture, we talk about this, concept of the different niches in the system. It's like you and I, Derrick, we're so on the exact same road, but like just in different vehicles.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really beautiful. I think that's what's really important, is that you don't have to run for mayor and be a journalist. You don't have to be a festival organizer and a community creator and a big mouth like me. Everyone has their place. Everyone has their piece in changing things, even if it's just beginning with starting to get conscious about your purchases. So to learn more, come check us out at puntamona.org or alegriavillage.com. And you can find Derrick at
theconsciousresistance.com. And I definitely want to recommend to anybody listening to my audience, do go to Punta. I mean, this whole trip, I tell everywhere I go, visit Punta Mona. Yeah. It'll change your life, because when you invited me on my birthday almost 4 years ago, it did change our lives. Amazing. And I look forward to being at Ecoversity and to learning and just being there with you, brother. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we just want everybody to get a sweet taste of how good it could be.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful,
and you are loved.
And loved. Peace. Peace.
Free and loved.